I want to invite you to take a moment to check in with your body right now. Maybe close your eyes or gaze softly down. Maybe let's take a deep in-breath together. And a beautiful out-breath. Do that. Give your full attention for this one breath. And this out-breath. It's just like when you want to drive your car and you have to put the keys into the thing so that the car starts. So to me, these opening breaths, that's what it is. It really gets me started, gets me into the meditation mode of leaving all the distractions and the outside mode and brings me back home to my body. So I want to invite you to do the same. And I always do several because maybe you need a while to still turn off your phone or things or that or adjust this or that. So please join me for a beautiful in-breath. Shifa, out-breath. Before I start talking, I want to invite us to take a couple of breaths like this, tending to this aliveness and checking in with your own body. Am I sitting right now in a way that supports my practice? Do I need to make any adjustments? Can I feel my legs and feet rooting deeper, my buttock rooting deeper? Can I feel the support of the chair, the cushion, the floor? Can I feel my spine lengthen effortlessly? Really like a tree. Grounded deep and reaching high, effortlessly. And because it's effortless, I can actually relax for real. I can allow this belly to soften a little more. I can invite some softening in my jaw. In my lips. My eyes. Before we go into our little teaching before meditation, sitting quietly for a minute or two. Every time we come back to the body, every time we come back to the breath, we're coming back home. contacting the deep quiet that is already here. And checking in with yourself. How is my body today, right now? How is my mind and heart as I'm coming to sit today? And spiritual practice is very much about meeting ourselves in truth, meeting the present moment in truth. And so if we want to meet ourselves in the present moment in truth, we need to start by knowing where we are at. So maybe you're coming with energy and presence and curiosity, enthusiasm about the practice. Maybe you're coming with tiredness and stress and fidgetedness, or pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and maybe a mixture of all of this. And can you welcome yourself as you are without trying to change anything right now? And if there is any struggle, any resistance to the present moment as it is, I want to invite you to place a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly. Without concepts about it, just seeing what it does somatically, physiologically, emotionally. For me, it's always moving to feel this aliveness, so rising and falling under my hands. The friends, welcome. Bruchim aba'im, bruchot aba'ot. Today is Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day, here in the States. In Israel, and for you in the States. And I was a bit hesitant about talking about it because now the very word Israel is so loaded politically. And then I felt sad that I was even hesitant to talk about it, because it shouldn't be only loaded politically. I just want to say, I'm going to share something about this country, this homeland, with an open heart. I hope it speaks to you. If it doesn't, you don't have to take it. And it's just about a people having a country that they've lost for 2,000 years. And then suddenly coming back, suddenly having a home back 75 years ago today. And in a way, it's so simple. It's just so simple. So destruction, exile. Jews have become the archetype of the concept of diaspora in sociology, being dispersed in the world and expelled and chased and yearning day after day and year after year, century after century. And that's what the Hatikva says, really the hope. Being able to come back home. It's simple, the desire is so simple. Liot am chofshi be'artzenu, to be a free people in our land. Not that we're perfect, not that it's not complex, not that there wouldn't be so much to heal and fix here in this land. Just acknowledging kind of the beauty of it, having a home, something that maybe our ancestors couldn't even dream of as an actual possibility. And I want to read this in the context of the parasha of this week. This upcoming Shabbat, we're opening Parashat Acharei Mot, that speaks about what happens after, like the consequences of the death of the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu. And it's interesting because there is a common thread in a way, because they died at the time of the inauguration of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And when the state was born, this was the inauguration also of a home, of a sacred space, which today we are celebrating. And I want to share with you a Torah from the Meor Einaim. So I'm going to share my screen if I can. Pat, I'm not sure I can share my screen. If not, you can share my source sheet. The Meor Einaim, Rabbi Menachem Nachum min Chernobyl, a Hasidic Rebbe, one of the first, second generation of, thank you so much, of Hasidut after the Baal Shem Tov, so really early 19th century. And he's commenting on pretty much the opening psukim, the opening verses of the parasha. The second verse is where God says something to Aaron, and he says, speak to Aaron, Achicha, your brother, Al yavo bechol et al hakodesh, and tell him this: he shouldn't come at all time in the holy. So there is a caution here. There is an instruction, you can't come at any time, which is a way of saying you can't do this in any way. As we would say in modern Hebrew, Moshe Balecha, just like the way you want to do it. That it's very precious, and we have to be careful about the way we do it. And Nadav and Avihu, they died because they did something. The way they did it wasn't careful, wasn't cautious, wasn't respectful in a way. And the image I was sharing earlier with my class is, people who climb the Himalaya, the mountain, they have to be very careful. They can't come at all times. They can't just do what they want, whenever they want, however. There are specific times, there are specific protocols, there is equipment, there is knowledge. There are very specific instructions if you want to come out of there alive and elevated. Because when you have an extreme experience, and it's the same with rituals, with religious rituals, and especially in the world of psychotropes like ayahuasca or other kind of substances that in the kind of shamanic tradition, right? You have to do it very, very carefully so that the moment of union with the divine adds more life rather than like kind of turns against you and can cause your death. And we have this very famous story in the Talmud about the 4 who entered the Pardes, and only one came out alive. Right? It's a theme, and it's a really recurrent theme in spiritual practice that we have to be careful. But I gave the kind of metaphor of the Himalaya because it's the same in life, without speaking about specifically spiritual religious life. But when something is very, very, very powerful, you can't do it just anyway. Just like a surgeon, right? Can't do things just however he wants. The closer we get to life, to something really intense, and God is called the source of life. And so the Meor Einaim, this is what he's saying. He is saying, that Nadav and Avihu, what they experienced was dvikut. And dvikut is basically union mystica. And the Bek B'Hashem is like really cleaving very, very close to the divine and becoming one with the divine. And I'm not sure. I'm trying to go down the source sheet. Wait, thank you so much. Just this, yeah. And so he's saying, if you do it right, you can go there and then come back and draw forth divine blessing, and you bring divine blessing down from above, and you stay alive. And this is the kind of, and he's quoting a pasuk, "V'atem hadvekim b'Hashem Elokechem, Chaim kulchem hayom. And you who are cleaving to the divine, all of you, you're alive today. And so the Meor Einayim here, the Hasidic master is affirming, the force of life, the divine, is a source of life. It's very alive. There is life there. That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to bring even more life, right? This is what he's saying. This is his desire, his will of the Blessed One, the one who keeps giving life to life. But if we approach things in a way that is not aligned, if we misuse of anything powerful, and again, it goes with technology, with love, with medicine, with nature, right? If we misuse, if we're not aligned, if we don't listen, if we don't look, if we don't respect what we're approaching, then it can actually turn against itself. And I want to share, and this is very personal, so it is with having a country after so many years of exile. It's a huge responsibility. It's a huge responsibility. And if we're misusing the power and the zchut, the merit of having this country, it can also turn against us. This is how we say we've lost our 2 first temples because of Lashon Hara, because of speaking badly to each other. And today, as you may know, this is something we're seeing in Israeli society, a lot of strife, a lot of, brothers against brothers, people talking badly about each other, people treating badly others. It's a huge responsibility. And shouldn't be taken for granted. And each of us, where we are in the world, we have this responsibility. How am I using the force of life? Am I using it for the good? Am I using it for life? Am I deeply respecting life? And we can stop sharing now the screen. Thank you so much. And this is a question I want to invite you to kind of contemplate, each of you, friends. May close our eyes again. How do I want to serve life? And I believe that when we meditate, we take that time to have this kind of distance from which we can cultivate awareness, respect, intentionality, care, which maybe in Nadav and Avihu we're lacking, right? When it's like blind enthusiasm, right? Zeal. Each of us, when we're coming to sit, to share these 45 minutes or half an hour of meditation together, coming because there is deep in us an intuition that this time of latency, this time of sitting still and silent, is helping us cultivate a deep care for life, a deep respect for life. So let's sit, my friends. Sit quietly, closing our eyes. Coming back, again, putting the key in the engine, taking a few grounding breaths, a few landing breaths. Noticing, maybe the quiet, you can already feel it. Maybe you feel agitation. Maybe it's hard to focus today. Trust the process, my friend. Just sit still. Connect to your body, connect to your breath. And as you see your thoughts passing, you become more aware, you become more present. Just by taking this step back and watching quietly what's alive in us right now. Every time you come back to this moment, your body breathing, it's a great victory. A great victory of presence. Coming back over and over again. Coming back home to this body, to this moment. Perfect stillness. No matter how movemented, how agitated it is inside. Friends, I want to close our meditation with a nigun on the tune of the Hatikva, just so that we can connect to hope in a very personal way. The Tikva is a song of hope, believing that we can manifest the better future and that dreams can come true if we keep hoping. So I really bless you that your dreams can come true. And I want to invite you to sing with me if you'd like. We're going to sing without words, just a nigun. You'll use your voice, the vibration of your voice, body and breath and air. A very powerful spiritual practice, the voice. Either wish happy birthday to the state or Israel, or for yourself, your own life. to me, or vision for a better future come true. And a deep breath in, deep breath out. And let's say Kaddish with Rav Josh.
Mira, if you're saying Kaddish for everyone today, we invite you to put their name in the chat, and you're welcome to unmute and join me. We'll put the text up on the screen. Yitkadal, Alma, Rabbah,
Hold on. Let's listen.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. If you need to leave us, wish you a tzitchem l'shalom, go in peace and farewell and come back. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. If you want to stay for another 10 or so minutes, we'll have a chance to talk with Mira and with each other about our experience with the teaching today and the practice. So Mira, thank you so much. And it was so beautiful how you connected the teaching of the Torah portion and the inyana de yoma, as we say in Aramaic, the matters of the day. And I wonder if I actually love to just invite you to reflect. You spoke a little bit, you hinted at it. You know, obviously the last number of months have been a very intense time in Israeli society, and you live in Israel. And I wonder how you've been finding your own practice. If I just invite you, if you like, how your practice has been part of your making your way through this time.
Thank you, Josh, for this question. Because I think as spiritual practitioners, if we don't apply it to everyday life, it's like it doesn't mean much. So I think it's a very important question. It's a very important question. And I want to add something to your question, to my answer to your question, which is that there is the internal strife in the society, which is quite violent. And there's another dimension, which is external threat. There are talks about maybe a war soon with countries around, and I'm sharing this, it's quite present for us here. So there's a sense of vulnerability that is quite heightened. And, I came to Israel a few years ago. My husband was born in Israel and grew up in Israel. He told me that he has never seen such dissension in Israeli society, such hate speech from Israelis to Israelis. People literally writing on social networks that all of the other, camps should be burnt and die. This is, unprecedented in Israeli society. The way I practice through it, I chose to do this in life because I really believe that there are two ways of changing the world, and we need these two ways. One is working on a macro level. So that's the political level, the organizational level, institutions, work on large scales to make changes with law and with, and then there is another level, which is the micro level, the individual level. And to me, it's actually more important because if everybody was clear and aware and akin, like if everybody was healed in a way and shalem, simply there would be no war. There would even be no need for law and and big systems, because everybody would be kind of self-limiting, right? There would be no aggression. So I heard about that term. I love how the English language in America, there is a thing of coining terms and expressions which are often very relevant. So spiritual activism. It's true. To me, actually, spiritual practice is very much activism. And that's what I do. So both in my personal practice, I sit a lot through, I'm going to be very honest, I am experiencing a lot of fear, a sense of vulnerability for the state. It's very strong for me. We're in the 75th birthday of the state. And the temples, when we had a temple, it lasted 75 years. And they were destroyed, and we lost the country, and we were in exile. So this happened. The Shoah happened, and that's closer to us. And from the Shoah, growing up in Europe, I grew up with that very strong and very close, maybe you too, friends. I grew up with a very strong awareness that the unthinkable is possible. So the idea that we may not have a state soon, if something happens, and I'm holding this idea because I don't want to take it for granted that we have a state or that we have a democracy. We know that everything is possible. It happened in Germany. It was unthinkable, right? And on Yom HaZikaron, I started watching a show which you may have heard about, and it's Sha'at Ne'ilah, which is about the Yom Kippur War. Brilliant, and very helpful to understand Israeli society. And, I wasn't born there, but some people really thought it could be the end. If the United States hadn't intervened, Israelis wouldn't have been able to win the war. So I'm practicing and I'm teaching. This is my very, 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 very modest, small contribution, but I believe in it. And I believe if each of us was, developing self-awareness and kindness, then, the world could be healed. So this is how I'm practicing. Yeah, I hope it wasn't too long an answer.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. I think, everyone, I think on some level, wherever we live, we have our version of, whatever political context or social context we're living in. And the Israeli one is its own, and one that many of us pay a lot of attention to and have a lot of relationship with. So really, really appreciate that. And I was also struck by you you don't shy away from going to the hard stuff, because you like went to Nadav and Avihu, like you pick the hardest thing in the, actually
Yeah.
isn't it the parsha? It's really after, this comes on in the wake of, but but this idea of the thin line that sort of separates, right, directing our hearts in the right way, in life-giving ways, let's say, right, life-affirming, life-sustaining ways, and in destructive ways, that we have, just like, on a very micro level, the unthinkable is possible, right? And so that's also possible within us, right? Not just externally. And I wonder, I invite you just to reflect on that maybe for a second, like a little further with that teaching of the Me'ori Nayim that you were referring to a little bit.
You mean about Nadav and Avihu and how like the misuse of any type of a...
Right. I mean, like there was a piece in what, as I recall, in what you were teaching, about our practice can lead us in different directions, and the difference between those can be very subtle, but can wind us taking us in very, very different paths.
Yeah. I think that's the teaching of the Me'ori Nayim, like right there. It's like, and it's not, there's no value judgment, but it's literally, if you're misusing any force, it can go in the direction of death, symbolically or literally, or instead of going in the direction of life. And as you were asking me this question, what came to mind is Rabbi Alan Lu, Zichrono Livracha. And I think it was in his spiritual autobiography, where he was talking about what he was seeing around him in the 60s and 70s. And that was a time with a lot of new gurus and spiritual teachers, both Eastern and Western. And he was, apparently he was also having special powers, Alan knew, right? He was having, I don't know how to say it differently. And by the way, it almost killed him at the time, because it was a kind of taking all his energy. So he went away from it. But it's spiritual power is real. Some people have that, right? And he was observing what was going on at the time, and there was a lot of abuse, psychological, physical, sexual, financial, on people. And he was saying, people are so naive because they think power equals wisdom. Power does not equal wisdom. You can have a lot of power, and if you misuse it, you're going to go in a very, very, very dark direction. So it goes with charisma. Hitler, power, charisma. And sometimes the worst is when it comes together, right? You have a spiritual teacher, they have a lot of charisma. Maybe they start with a lot of good intentions. Politicians also, by the way. And then something, the Yetzer Hara, like the dark side, is going to eat them. And then it's going to go into abuse. I also want to say, and I'm sorry for being very, very upfront, and, but I think sometimes it's important just to, we were talking about it with my husband, thinking about this culture and this society and what technology allows and how dark it can go. And again, excuse me in advance, but this is spiritual practice and we're talking about life and the truth. The porn culture, and my husband was saying, in this moment, you have like thousands of guys or women, whatever, in front of their screens, and this used to not exist. And by the way, it makes people sick. People are sick. It really actually harms users, consumers of it. And this is how you can turn a huge force, sexuality, friends. That is the force of life. It's the force of life, and if it's being misused and you use technology and, lust and greed and all the money of the industry, it destroys people's lives. It destroys people's brains, So we live at a time where we have more power than ever. Things are easier than, it's the same with food. It's the same with so many things, right? And so the responsibility that we have, the kind of life is demanding from us a lot of self-discipline, a lot of like self-restraint, a lot of gvura, actually, to survive the possibilities that we have. By the way, it's the same with war. If there is a war today in the world, because everybody has the atomic, So I hope, I apologize in advance if what I said was very upfront, but I think sometimes
you're getting important. A lot of amens from the chat.
Okay.
And Yes. And I think it's really something like to bring this conversation on Yom Ha'atzmaut. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, especially in the Israeli context, but Atzmaut itself is just independence, right? And it is the responsible exercise of power is the question that we're, that you're asking of us. And all of our political crises are also spiritual crises, is what you're reminding. And so I think it's a very beautiful and important reflection in what you're talking about.
Yeah, and thank you, Josh, for reminding us about Atzmaut, because I think the culture we live in, and it's not so old in human history, it's like maybe a century and a half ago, consumer culture, let's put words on it. Consumer culture is actually taking our power away from us. It's like the whole purpose of a consumer culture is saying you're not responsible, and what you need is outside of you, and pay for it. And Atzmaut is reclaiming your agency, reclaiming your autonomy, and that takes, work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. There's a lot of wonderful comments in the chat. I hope this has been a good, and I know for me it's been a wonderful addition to my Yom Ha'atzmaut today. And Mira, it's always really a pleasure and such a delight to practice and study with you. And to everybody, thank you so much. We will be back here tomorrow with Mark. And until then, wishing a Chag Sameach to all who are celebrating, and we'll be back here soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you, Frank.